Settled out.
I needed state volume being out.
So anyway,
That's probably adjacent,
Yeah.
more than we already knew.
Top
I was just
20%.
curious.
What is it?
Top 20%.
Top 20%.
Top 20%.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh, wait,
there.
Megan.
I'm not there.
Oh, I'm thinking, what's going on in Austin?
Oh, they're talking about our master.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, everybody.
I've
been to that one and it's fun.
Welcome aboard. It's July. We have a very busy meeting, and I thank the 4 of you who are here. Joking, there's 7. And there's about that many on the internet as well. But hey, it's a holiday weekend, and the good thing is, part of what we're gonna be doing today is workshopping messages that we want to deliver all month, that we believe are critical to our business and us being prepared. And when we talk about Keller Williams, one of the things we talk about consistently is we are a training and consulting company. Now, maybe 5 years ago you heard we're a technology company, but we brought some people back who realized that we are a training and a consulting company. And that's the tech guy saying that, so I want to be clear that we are a training and consulting company. And we want each of you to be the best prepared to handle the upcoming changes that are resulting from all of the nonsense that have gone on. We want you to be the best prepared that you can be. And we feel that's the best way to represent Keller Williams, the best way to realize our goals and our values as well. So with that in mind, we're gonna get this meeting started. We'll talk about exciting and fun things. And of course, our purpose is to serve agents and impact lives. And if you are here, you can see there's a little board that says, what would you like from the MC? And Melissa's gonna talk about that in a little bit. But we wanna make sure we deliver as much as we can about what you need to know about this, the upcoming changes this month as best we can. And we're gonna do our best to make sure that we deliver that in every point as frequently and as often as we can, so that you can impact lives of the people that you work with. Our goal continues to be to return $1 million in profit share in the year 2030. We believe this is a pivotal time for the industry, that if we can provide the best quality training and you guys go out there and do your jobs the way you have always done them, representing your clients to the best of your ability, that people will want to be here. You will be interacting with people who do not know this as well as you do. You will unfortunately be asked to help them. And what a great way to introduce them to why they want to be here. You were unprepared. I am fully prepared and I was able to help you. And that's why you belong here with us. Except for we'd really like it if you knew what you were talking about. So with that in mind, moving forward, I do want to talk about Mikey Hauser. And she's our play of the week. And if you didn't get a chance to read it, I'm going to read what we had to say about Mikey. And this is Jamie, of course. Many classic American movies, you may be familiar with them, just the classic ones, no modern ones do this, depict the hero riding in to save the day. And Mikey is actually often seen literally riding in to save the day on her horse. She has shown up to appointments on horseback, and her proceeds from real estate help her fund her passion to rescue horses and other animals. This week she was bringing carloads of items to people in Iowa to help flood victims in immediate need. She's doing all this while running a thriving real estate business and is a member of the esteemed Jenna Riley Home Team, serving as director of an effort to connect the Casey Jones State Trail. She serves on the MLS West Car Enhancement Team alongside Jenna and is busy raising 2 beautiful children along with her husband Alex at their ranch. When asked what makes her so successful in her 11 years of being an agent, and she did first get her real estate degree in Germany, she says it's focusing on relationships. If her clients aren't her friends at the beginning, they will be before the closing. And that's why we are recognizing Mikey as our play of the week. So if we might give her a hand, fantastic work. And I tell you what, if you're the tech director, she will keep you on her toes too, because she has a lot of great questions and she's a digger. So she is in there all the time. So with that in mind, we're doing something a little different today, and you can expect this going forward in the meetings. You might even think, hey, the meeting is out of order. But we're bringing the end of the meeting to the middle of the meeting so that we can make sure that gets all of the attention it deserves. So with that in mind, Melissa and I and some of our other friends are going to help talk through some of this fantastic stuff, and I'll turn this over to her. But the one thing I do want to say as we get into this is we really believe in the value of practice. You are not born with the words in your mouth you need to succeed as a realtor, as a human, and you have to say them a few times to get them to come out right before they sound right. And so today we're going to work on scripts, okay? Here's the thing I know about scripts. Anytime I've ever given a salesperson a script, they immediately hand it back to me and say, I can't say those words. They're not my language. That's not the way I speak. Yep. And in the meantime, I've had just about every realtor in here ask me for what Keller Williams says the script should be. So with that in mind, we understand that you may not end up saying exactly what we talk about here. What we're talking about is getting the words into your mouth so they do come out naturally. So they sound like the words and they sound like you speaking, so that you understand the spirit of what we're talking about, not just the letter of the law, but the spirit of the rule, so that when you discuss this with your clients, it does sound natural. And it is in your voice, but you only get there through practice. Sarah, if I can, and I'm just gonna ask you a question, the first time you did a listing appointment,
Oh, it's terrible.
really? I find that amazing because you're really good at it now. Did the clients change?
No.
It's you who changed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you got better. The clients didn't get better, you got better. And that's the point about this. They are still the same people they were a year ago, before the settlement. You are coming in with your own expectations, ideas, and changes. They still have questions. Ultimately, we're gonna find out they're the same questions they've always had. They just didn't know they could ask them. And now we're gonna have to talk about ways to address it. So with that in mind, I'm gonna give you over to my good friend Melissa, and she'll talk some stuff and say great things, and then we'll move on from there.
Right. Well, like Jason said, thanks for being here and thanks for being on Zoom. I'm especially thankful to our ALC. This is a gigantic change. You guys are all feeling probably a little anxious about the change. We are too, that's totally natural. But we have worked hard in the background. We are going to continue to work hard all throughout the month of July. And then at the end of July, we are going to come to you with an extravagant panel of experts, all the ideas that we've accumulated together, and on July 24th, you will have everything that you need for August 17th. But you're a part of that today. You're a part of helping us develop these scripts and dialogues. In addition to scripts and dialogues, as we prepare throughout the month of July, what things do you value? What do you want from us as a market center to prepare you? So I'm gonna write scripts on here, because we hear it over and over again. What else can we give you to prepare you for this change? Any other ideas?
I'm just wondering, so we have to have a signed buyer contract. Do we have to have them pay us money up front?
No.
Oh, well, thank God. I was like sweating that.
You do not. You can, but you do not.
How would you even know what to even charge? I mean, you wouldn't know what price point the house
Yeah,
would sell.
that's true. Yeah, it's true. I've had two of those since I've worked here as the broker. One a couple of years ago, and one actually just this week. So you may shift to doing that. But what other things can we equip you with?
In the scripts, can we have something to kind of explain how this all came about? Because some people don't even know what it is.
Yeah,
And then,
perfect. Maybe even like a flyer or a graphic or something.
Yeah.
Okay? Any other things?
Commonly used phrases in the listing agreements, purchase agreements, buyers, all of the things.
Okay? Clauses, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Jason?
I'd love it if you could visit my friends who live all around the state and bring this information to them and not just make them drive up here.
Yeah,
I would love that too.
we are on it, on the docket. What a great idea. What's yours original? Anything else? Yes.
I would love some social media graphics that we can help spread the message to our database.
Great. Anything else?
Could we have a comparable with an old form compared to the new form so we could show them what has changed, exactly.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good
absolutely. You played perfectly. It's almost like I planted that. You played perfectly into how we are starting this out. Clicker, over here. All right, your ALC has been working incredibly hard. As you know, Keller Williams Preferred Realty has policies related to this. The ALC voluntarily split into two different groups. One is working on revising the policies. They'll be discussing them next week at their ALC meeting. So if you have interest, you may want to come next Monday before the team meeting to do that. The other half, Sarah Anderson, Shane Korn, and Kelly Jeffers, worked with me today to develop some of these scripts and dialogues for you. They are going to continue to develop, but I want to give them a very personal and very sincere thank you. They put a lot of time into ALC now. As you guys have heard, and as you know, but it just hit me literally earlier this week, we have had this buyer representation contract since the 90s. We incorporated buyer representation in the state of Minnesota in something like 1992 or 1993. But we are only one of 14 states that has had that. And so we are at such an advantage because this is what we're used to, this is what our consumer is used to. But when you hear this news on a national level, it sounds even more dramatic because we're dealing, you know, with the other 35 states who this is something brand new to. 36, I was being round. Thank you. But use that as you are explaining this to your consumers. Let them know that we are a part of an association. We are part of a state that has been progressive, consumer-centric, very antitrust from the early 90s. Like Jason said, and I'm so glad he touched on it, we also should remember to keep our mindsets positive, keep this light and upbeat. It sounds, you know, catastrophic and industry changing to us, but the truth is the changes in the contracts that you'll see are really quite small, and there's a letter of the law, and there's also a spirit of the contract. You know, Steve has attended far more code of ethics hearings than I ever have, but the truth is when it comes down to it, a lot of times the question is asked, well, what was the spirit of the contract? Not necessarily how exactly was that written. So just remember to keep the spirit of the contract in mind. I also do want to point out there are incredible resources out there. Our association, the state association, has put together a really good, the entire section of their website. The National Association of Realtors is putting out the facts. Northstar MLS, you know, this has a big change to how our Northstar MLS is going to operate. Northstar MLS has provided settlement info. Our calling calls, I'm going in this random order, but our calling calls are really great. They give lots of good ideas. And we do have recordings of those, so if you've ever heard a calling call and you want to re-listen to it yourself, you can always ask me. The call from June 11th, where Colin talked through the listing agreement and how a seller may not necessarily want to offer buyer broker compensation, was a really, really good one. Please remember, if you haven't done Value Squared yet, much of this is just helping make sure that the consumer understands what our value is. And that's a good way to help establish what your value proposition is. KW Connect is chock full of ideas. And then something I do not want you to miss. From July 15th until July 24th, the Minnesota Association of Realtors is doing a very fun road show, they're calling it. And it's 1.5 hours of free CE. Who doesn't want that? You can go to the Minnesota Association of Realtors. They're offering it at other association offices all over, literally all over the state. So please use those as resources. I'm gonna dive right, yes,
Are those
please.
only live, not face or not Zoom calls?
As far as I know, they're just live and in person.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you go to the state association website, it lists out all of the dates, and I put on the Facebook page too a link to that so you can see. They're offering like 2 a day on some of the days and then 1 of the days throughout the rest of the week. The one I'm going to is on Monday, July 15th. I think it's at 10 a.m. and it's at the Minnesota Association, which is just off of kind of like 62 and 169. All right, so you're gonna be surprised. I'm gonna flash forward here really quick, and then I'm gonna flash back. We are literally such a rock solid buyer representation contract state that they only had to add 2 lines to change our buyer rep form. It's not gonna change in terms of what it says, it's just gonna change in terms of how you say it. So I'm gonna go over this, and then we're gonna divide into a couple of groups. We're gonna rehearse, practice, and ideally you guys are going to come up with ideas and suggestions that are even better than what we've typed out thus far. But something that you really, really need to know is that starting August 17th, and we're not quite sure how this is going to be policed yet, but starting August 17th, you must have a buyer representation contract signed before you take anyone into a house. And they clarified to me, that means before you do a virtual showing, that means before you do, anything that might involve a consumer. It doesn't actually involve commercial, which is interesting. Yeah.
What happens, like I just had a client who was out of state, so I went and looked at houses for him.
You have to have the buyer representation, but you have to have his permission with a buyer representation contract first.
Okay, so I couldn't think.
Yeah, it's a great question though. It's a really great question. Steve?
And keep in mind, you can have that contract only last 2 days or whatever, if they're not wanting to make a long-term commitment. So, or 1 day, it could expire at midnight tonight.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned
You show
that.
them this afternoon and it expires at midnight tonight. To put them a little, more at ease.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad you mentioned that. Thank you. You, of course, are going to be, in an ideal world, you're going to be doing your buyer consult ahead of time. And by the time you get to going through these contracts, you'll have established rapport. They'll have understood your value. But we all know sometimes there's things that happen really, really fast. And you haven't maybe done a buyer consult or established all of that. And you go right into this buyer rep contract because they are ready to make an offer. Now, as we know, the crux of this entire lawsuit is that by the time they got to this section right here, we filled in 2.7% and they had no inkling that that was a negotiable item. So you're gonna have to weave into your dialogues, you're gonna have to weave into your process a way of making sure that they understand all commissions are negotiable. So our first draft, and this is going to be evolving, so don't take this, as gospel, but our first step is going to say, commissions are negotiable and may be different at different brokerages and even with different realtors within that brokerage. Our professional fee that reflects the level of service we give and the value we provide to our clients is between 2 and 3%. Our brokerage actually even has a policy of cooperating broker compensation as 2.7. You have the option to choose who you work with in this endeavor, and if you choose to work with us, this is the rate that we charge. This reflects what we feel the value we give to our clients. Do you have any questions about this? Steve?
Comment?
Well, go right ahead, that's what it's for. This isn't the thing.
I would maybe think about putting the word recommended policy, rather than saying our brokerage has a policy of 2.7%. I don't know, what do you think?
I think recommended is a great addition there. Can you change it up?
I'm gonna change it.
Sarah?
I might be getting ahead of things, and as an ALC, I know we haven't
Yeah.
reviewed and voted on anything.
Yes.
But I worry that if part of what you were talking about earlier was the other half of the ALC liked to be able to lean on that.
Yeah.
Recommended takes away that leaning.
How about approved?
Yeah, I think that gets closer to what I'm thinking. I just don't want someone to come back and say, well, they're fixing percentages over here at Keller Williams Preferred Realty.
But yeah, I like that.
To say you have a policy,
And then say,
so that's, I like that's better.
Okay, good. And that is how we're suggesting the policy be changed and amended. So that's really good language. How about if we do this? We are gonna break for 3 minutes. What time is it right now? 11:21. We're gonna break for 3 minutes and we're gonna do a think tank. So you're going to read this and rehearse it to Sarah and vice versa. You're gonna come up with some words that sound a little bit better, flow that feels a little bit better, and then we're gonna reunite and we're gonna give some suggestions. All right? Buddy up, please.
What are we gonna read?
This. You're gonna practice this as if you're delivering a buyer representation contract.
Okay.
Do you guys have a search?
Are you licensed?
I'm not. Oh, sure, yeah, yeah,
All
that's
right.
my partner. Yeah, Carrie's getting
All right.
Yeah, you might not know me, they know my hair.
And then he just got a haircut the other day.
A lot more grays I noticed are coming through.
You give me grace too, Shane.
To me, it's intense.
So you help, I was gonna say that might change.
Yeah, so the good news is, we had other assistants too, like John.
Okay, Kari, why don't I start out?
So, but, yeah.
Have you
Bill,
done this with anybody else?
we have not, we've just kind of went over a little bit before this, and then just been brainstorming for a while, kind of brain dumping. So, yeah. But,
They settled the suit.
and I think this one
And
does,
it
I
has a
don't know if this is
Remember, this is
but I
not
can
buyer about them being responsible.
So,
Would you say, I'm just, right, so
Yeah.
you don't like basically say all of this at one time.
different than the way it used to be.
Maybe different at different.
Fortunately, Minnesota is one of only 14
Because
states
this,
that
the policy, this is. Are we just talking about saying our property is approved and cooperative organization? Our brokerage.
Yeah, it would probably be this whole thing as you move through the, kind of picture you're moving through the buyer agreement.
Val laws.
Yeah.
So, and I've never gone over. We're saying that buyers, there's gonna be a lot of the buyer rep.
Okay.
I'm buyer representative. That's why I'm saying. I don't.
Yeah.
The reason
No,
she
that's
has.
all. Great question.
To show that it's not.
Do you want to see a buyer agreement? Would that be more helpful?
I have gone through those.
Okay.
Like, and they may be different, this is what.
Okay.
This is how I have it.
Okay. Yeah, but you can kind of picture what it looks like in the area.
So I'm sitting down with the buyer.
Yeah.
You and my bro.
So we're getting ready to go. We were sitting there and I was talking to you. We're getting ready to go through the paperwork. This is the time we get to discuss fees.
Great question again.
Like, at this point, say like,
There
are
are several
you know,
different ways.
so.
Yeah, and the only thing we've been,
Class action lawsuit.
trying to follow, but the only thing that we've been changing is
Sellers
there's
tax.
commissions, and then there's fees. We've been changing some
I'm
compensation.
excited. So the next step is.
You wouldn't know that?
And before we
Just
jump into
because,
this, I would just like to say that all
kind of
commissions.
thing, so compensation feels like it fits that word the best.
And you will find if
Those
you talk to
percent
other brokers or other agents, that it may differ.
Yeah, yeah,
It may
feel free.
differ. And I would say, I would always like to say.
It does say commissions are negotiable there, but
There's several different ways.
and then it gets to compensation, because that's how it is represented.
I know, it's buyer.
Pay my brokerage percentage
So,
at
because
successful
we're
closing. Or we could ask the seller,
at
to
buyer.
Yeah, oh, for sure, yeah, and we'll get this,
It actually.
stuff right now, it's kind of a little bit, but there's also, so, everything will get more refined, and roll out, done more. So this is a pretty good start, and then they're just.
Advise the buyer and.
All right, everyone, let's reconvene.
What's the word? Concessions? Not compensation. Concessions.
Wow. I was in a little bit, I've been.
If any of the sellers probably will pay concessions.
All right, everyone, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I'm happy to hear you talking so much. I would love to hear some of your good ahas, some of your improved dialogue.
I'll start off, since sometimes it's hard to get the words out of the mouth. Again, that's the whole point. These are new things to us. But just off of what we had on the screen, to Steve's point, our brokerage has approved a cooperating brokerage compensation, and this should be of 2.7%. But just cutting out some of those extra words, we're thinking. In addition to that here, where we talked about between 2 and 3%. Our professional fee reflects the level of service we give and the value we provide to our clients. End of line. That's it. I'm not gonna give you the option to tell me about 2%. I'm not gonna wanna figure, you can go ahead and give me 3, but I mean, as soon as I open that Pandora's box, I'm asking you to go low.
Misha?
Since we're saying our professional fee, blah, 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 should the next line say our brokerage has approved a professional fee? Like, because we go from professional fee to cooperating brokerage compensation. So people are like, well, wait, what is that? Yeah, why are they two different
Keep in mind,
things?
this is,
Great
we're
point.
speaking to the buyers.
You're also going through the contract, so I see that being said when you get to the compensation line.
Okay,
Yeah, this may not be a whole
Gotcha.
script that you deliver in one.
cool, makes sense.
What other ideas and suggestions? How did it roll off your tongue? Were you wanting to modify it a lot, I assume?
I got rid of the 2, we were talking about getting rid of the 2 to
Good.
3%, just that, again, I feel like that opens the door for someone to say, oh, well, you said 2%, and now you say 2.7, we picked 2.
You pick somebody else.
Well, then,
Yeah.
that
Agent over there.
Yeah. And I personally like policy, and I may change it for my team to say that our team has a policy of a cooperating brokerage commission of 2.7. Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You can choose to work with whomever you want. You just have to make sure they understand they have the right to say no and attempt to negotiate. You don't have to negotiate them lower, you just have to make sure they've understood it. Shane?
For some reason, I can't see the 2 to 3%. Is that
It's
on there?
gone.
Oh,
He may have good hair, but he doesn't have good eyes.
But, no, I was gonna say I agree with you there, and then kind of like we discussed earlier, when we talk about it, we say, you know, typically it's been 2.7. We don't say standard or anything like that, so then how I say to folks is typically it's been 2.7%, but there's people that's even paying 3% or 3.5% out there. So that's kind of what we do, but I like that that's gone.
I run into the same thing of, you don't want to say it's standard or anything
Yep.
like that. Can we say typically it's been, or is that still, see, I worry now
Yeah,
that we can't even say that anymore.
I think Greg Hartos would tell you no.
yeah. I guess maybe we could say, but it's not a standard.
I
You know, you're
understand
not
why
saying
you're saying
standard.
it, it
Yeah.
gives them context, it helps
Yeah.
them understand, so like, what is the scale?
Yeah.
And typically it has been, so it's accurate.
I should say before that though, we say it's negotiable, and then we roll into that.
Yeah.
Typically, it's been.
Amber?
I think this is gonna be a little bit more of a challenge for us down in ours, so maybe it's a roadshow question, but I mean, St. Peter, you're getting 2%.
Right.
You know, so then how do you, it's just, I've had to have that conversation with people that are kind of shopping around and they're like, well, you know, I'm gonna charge you 6%, I'm gonna charge you 5%, but I'm only gonna pay out 2% because that's the going rate around here. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's such a weird thing because if they will talk to, there's agents in Mankato that are charging 4% total, paying out 2, keeping 2. I mean, and so it's just, we already have that challenge, and so this is gonna be a little bit more of a,
Have you
making sure
ever,
it's clear.
in your buyer rep agreements, have you ever said this is negotiable when you get to that line? Or leading up to it?
I've never said that.
How do you feel about incorporating it now? Does this seem like a flow that you could use and just kind of rattle off in 30 seconds?
Not yet.
Is there something that would make it more comfortable?
I think just practicing it, understanding it.
Have you
Melanie?
typically put in 2.0 on the buyer contract or?
St. Peter, yeah, or
Okay.
2.25, you
Okay.
know, so sometimes I'll charge 5.5, and I'll pay out, you know, I was paying out 2.7 all the time I didn't care, I was like, it's okay, I'm still gonna be that full service agent, and it's just too hard, because they know, people know, like, it's on billboards, we charge 4%, well, why are you
Right.
charging 6?
Right.
Like, yeah, well, because here's my value,
Value.
but
Yeah.
They don't care.
Value.
they don't care.
I ran into a problem where the buyer said to me, I have a neighbor that's a real estate agent and he said that he can do this for 1%. So can you give me back that 1.7 and take it off the price of the house and put your commission back into that.
Oh.
And
So, one of my favorite things to say to people when they try to go very cheap, I just let them know it's very expensive to be cheap. Full stop. Being cheap sometimes costs you, and a lot of times costs you so much more money in the long run. So it's expensive to be cheap, and if his services are not cheap, what are you giving up? And this is what I charge.
right.
I think Colin also does a really good discussion of that, and he talks about the quality of service that he's gonna provide, and if you're looking for a 1% level of service, what sorts of things do you not want me to do?
Let them tell you.
And let them tell you. I mean, if, you know, if all you want me to do is throw a sign in your yard, you know, maybe it is worth it to you to throw that up there.
But we're talking
This
about
is
a
a
buyer
buyer.
right now.
But even,
So-
why
okay,
does
so
the buyer
if all you
decide?
want me to do is open the door and not give you any advice, that's called a completely different thing, and I can absolutely do that
You're
for
showing
you.
assistance for 1%?
Right, I'm happy to help you out with that.
Well, Tasha, you're right. We are talking about the buyer rep contract right now and talking
So-
through the dialogue of how we make sure our buyers understand the rate in which we place in this line here on their buyer representation contract is indeed negotiable. And I do want to make something clear too, so that you understand, in the buyer representation contract, the only 2 lines that were added is it now says that the broker may not receive compensation for brokerage services provided to buyer from any source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in this contract, except if you amend it. And you can amend it as long as you and your buyer mutually agree to it.
How do you amend it? What document?
There's a very simple, that's funny, I said maybe I should put this in here to show them. There's a very simple 1-page agreement in our forms that says it is an amendment to a listing or buyer representation contract form. It's very standard.
So any seller who's offering $1,000 signing bonus or
Yep.
bonus, not signing bonus, but bonus.
Yep.
You would use that form.
Yep, builder that says I'm willing to pay them 3%, yes. You can accept more as long as you put it in writing.
So, and this is kind of Tasha's question from when we were discussing, I think, so tell me if I'm wrong. So I get that if the listing agent and seller are offering more, we can amend this number to more. We had 2.7, they're offering 3, we can amend it to 3. What happens when this says 2.7?
Seller's offering.
I know
less.
what will happen, but I want to know from you what will happen. If that says 2.7 and the seller is offering 2.5 or 2 less than, is it automatic that the buyer pays the difference?
Yes, yes. And I took it out of this slide deck today because I wanted to be shorter and more concise, but proactively, you can write in the other section of your buyer representation contract that you would agree to amend it higher or lower if the seller offers less. You could make that just an automatic in the other section, and we have that in the common clauses.
So you're saying that we would amend it to less so the buyer isn't paying the difference?
Only
Once you-
Good.
if
So I'm
you-
agreeing to that up
You're
front.
telling them up front.
you're agreeing up
Good.
front, I'll reduce my commission.
And you have a clause that says that they agree to pay the difference?
That's what you
That's
should be
this.
saying.
That's already said
That's
that.
this.
That's always said that.
And is that,
Go after it.
like,
Most of us
is
would
it
go
that,
after it.
Yeah.
what,
Okay, I just quick wanted to say something on the note of the man that wanted, to be reimbursed, quote unquote.
Yeah.
How far into this were you?
Well, I had the listing, and he came through my open house and signed on my open house sheet and asked me if I could represent him. And since I was already getting commission on the one side, he wanted to get part of the buyer commission and have me take it off.
So next time someone asks you to do that, your statement is, so when you're at work and you're given additional responsibilities such as a promotion, do you get a pay decrease or a pay increase?
That's good.
and she's so sweet when she says it.
She smiles.
Because I also,
Just in the interest of time, because we do
Sorry.
have several things we want to cover at the end. Did you have a comment too?
Uh,
Maybe the mood switched.
It escaped me
No problem,
after
sorry.
71 years.
Kelly, you always have such good insightful ideas. How about you? What can you contribute?
Be more specific. It was a broad subject.
Talk about when you say the word negotiable.
Oh, so we discussed this at our ALC pre-meeting today, and I think it's really important that we do let them know that it is negotiable, because A, we want to be compliant, and we're rule followers, and we are ethical. But we also think that there's some benefits in where and when you say it. So we kind of collectively agreed that maybe before you go into all of the contracts, we as a market center, we have a word script on kind of a preamble, sort of an introduction where we tell them, we're about to go through the contracts of my representation. It will outline my fiduciary responsibilities to you, how I protect your interests, and also important to note that all commissions are negotiable. Does that make sense? Do you understand? Yes or no? If they don't understand, keep talking about it. If they say yes, you go right into your contracts. I suggest starting with agency, then KWPR disclosure. I suggest getting to the buyer contract at the very end, and then you go through it essentially as we've always gone through it. Now, not everybody has maybe been going through it the way that we think they've been going through it, but essentially the conversation is, and here's how, this is our contract. Also, you are responsible for my compensation. It is denoted here. You'll see on this line that if a seller offers to reduce this obligation, you will not be responsible for it. If they offer less than this, you may be responsible for the difference. If they don't offer anything, then you are responsible for this full amount. Now, it's important to note that in most scenarios, I anticipate a seller to continue to reduce this obligation on your behalf. If we are in a scenario where they are not offering to reduce your obligation, please tell me if you'd like to know before we tour the property or after we tour the property.
Isn't that great?
Can you just tell me?
I know.
Do you have that written down somewhere?
Holy crap, that was awesome.
Very good. And what I
I'm asking
really
John
like
to
about
take
what
notes
she
and what you were writing.
suggested is just
Yes,
do
well,
that
all the
before
words
you
are
go to any of the contracts. That way you've made sure and they've said yes, you understand all of these commissions are negotiable, correct? Correct, and they understand.
Kelly, just to reinforce, you didn't come up with that just 2 minutes ago.
This morning.
You've said it a few times, and those words
Yeah, that
have
part, yes.
become natural by repeating it. And I know I keep repeating this, but I promise you, the difference between you and 6 months from now is time and practice. And in 6 months, this will be basically forgotten. So the sooner we can get there, the better off we are.
All right, now let's roll into listing contracts. What you are going to be up against is not necessarily your total listing compensation rate, but you're going to be up against when we get to that section where it says, we would offer this amount of compensation to the brokerage representing the buyer. And that's when they're gonna jump in and they're gonna say, oh no, I heard you don't have to do that anymore and whatnot. So our suggested language, which we want you to help us amend today, is what our commissions are negotiable and may be different at all different brokerages. What our brokerage has found is that operating this cooperating realtor compensation opens the door to a larger pool of buyers. I think it's safe to say you want to appeal to the largest volume of prospective buyers, and offering this compensation will do so. Therefore, we will check shall and note that amount on page 4. Did I see someone's hand up?
Is this language in the Minnesota forms?
Yes.
What you just read?
No, what I just read is a possible dialogue for how you
Okay.
would describe
Go
it
back.
to your client. This is how it, well, yes, but remember, this is.
I know, this is just an idea, but
This is just a starting point. You guys are a think tank, you're helping us with this. But this was derived from a calling call, and I think it covers it concisely, but we're gonna improve on that today. So we're gonna break out, but first, I'm gonna show you the listing agreement and how it's changed. The listing agreement has changed in these 2 sections right here. We call it now total broker compensation on line 115. We say on lines 122 through 125, if seller agrees to pay buyer broker compensation directly to the buyer broker, then seller's obligation to pay compensation as specified on lines 119 shall be reduced by the amount paid in this percentage of the selling price. Put a dollar amount if you want, of course. Just as it always has been, it offers this percentage to the broker representing buyer or assisting buyer, and it now says the cooperating broker compensation of the total broker compensation, broker shall or shall not offer compensation to cooperating brokers. If shall, the compensation to cooperating brokers is as follows. All right, go ahead and break out and let's rehearse that.
Can you put it back?
Yeah, I feel like.
So 2 checks are getting cut at the closing. There's one going to the broker, the buyer's broker.
I would say, yeah, to be honest.
So everybody.
So can you go to the form?
So I guess it would matter, I'm sure, explaining it differently, but.
I will.
Different.
Yes,
So this is new,
yes,
what you were seeing right here.
correct, what's in yellow.
Okay.
Mhm.
Jason, can you
And
go
then
back to the
the
screen?
next screen is the
I think let's go
dialogue
back
we
to
have
this
with
page.
the seller.
Oh, so we're not practicing
So
yet.
that's what
Okay,
we're
go
gonna
ahead.
practice.
Okay,
You
here, let's take a picture. Wait, I wanna take a picture, then you can go.
I actually think I did accidentally take a picture.
Okay, go ahead.
So as you guys are sitting at the kitchen table with someone selling their house, and you get to this new section of the listing contract, we want you to practice and rehearse how you're going to describe it to them.
I think I would just say.
I've never done one of these, so I need,
Okay,
I'll listen.
I mean, I think it's really kind of.
well,
Like, this is the commission that I charge, and I share personal commission.
just to kind of give you a little background.
Which is their
Will be
obligation.
reduced by that amount. So this is
And
still
then
the
it's
total
like
right
they
now.
bring-
Previously,
This is what they're offering.
when we listed the property for sale, it was spelled right
Yeah,
out.
but I'm
What
assuming
the
I
seller
would have
was
to.
going to
Share
broker
responsibility.
If that works for you.
Would it be something that would be more like, I would advise,
As of August.
Yeah, I don't think that, I think that would be okay too, yeah.
like, because they're talking about you're the professional, right? Like, you're the person. So I would advise that we want to appeal to the larger group, so that would, so we want to have the most amount of buyers. We want to operate to
Yeah, no, I think that's a little stuff. Yeah.
So say the total, like, it's not to, like, the anything that like, so that's why it's say.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's what I don't understand.
But yeah, you could do that, that doesn't affect anything.
I'm just saying, it doesn't sound like.
No, that's fine.
I'll have to take notes and then.
Yeah, that's
If
all
you
I
wanted
need.
to hire me, I would say that.
I do have a little bit about Laura Kelly's position that she got into her.
Buyers, so we want to open this conversation.
Right.
Jason, you got it, okay, because Tony just
That's
got
what I
that
would strongly recommend it.
So we offer concessions. Agents should
And I
buy,
can't see what you're
then we're operating with a track.
Did you see what Karina said about stalking the section, Jason?
The commission.
It's funny, she wants to stalk it in the recording so she can write Kelly Jeffers down word for word.
Is gonna have to be paid, they're paid directly out.
Oh, I'm so stalking, Misha.
Huh?
So,
What you
I'm
say?
so stalking.
No, girl, I already told him you want to stalk it, and I told Kelly she just need to go up and teach.
Right? Yes, it was amazing.
Kelly, so Karina.
so I believe we would
She's
attract
in the
more
chat, she was like,
potential buyers by
please share,
offering.
can we get this recording so I can stop this section and
Concessions.
write it down? Like, somebody else said, oh, who was talking this is fantastic script. Kelly Arvidsson said.
Otherwise,
I really
Broke
love
because he said, I need a word
I
for
think we're
word.
out of here.
sale
Nice.
prices would go down.
They're talking about the fact that all the
Sure,
secretaries
sure.
negotiable, like every
So,
single contract.
maybe I'll just have
Not just my
word
contract.
back.
Yeah.
No, every time, yeah, I said the same one you were
Right.
saying, because I was listening, I was like, yeah, they're about to understand
The
this.
seller.
All
All
the
the
contracts
contracts,
are
whatever I go into,
So,
whatever they've already said, reduced to
tell the
That
That was the yellow background.
Your coach and show.
and just.
She's all in yellow. I can't keep that going. Right.
Okay, so that's, you think that, yeah, the way that you.
Well, I just know that my bottom line is $94,000.
Yeah, so this is.
Fantastic.
You know,
And
prices
I-
of
for
homes.
me-
I'm not sure I want to
Yeah.
pay
You know, so
any
pay,
extra.
That doesn't
for the
help.
buyer.
All right,
Sit
may I
right
have
here.
everyone,
Right in the class.
may I have everyone's attention again? I love all the voices in the room. It's clear that there's a lot of words that we want to use to describe what's changing and what's happening. We just might not necessarily have that amount of time as we're sitting in front of a buyer and seller. So our objective is to get it short, concise, canned, easy. Yes.
going to the other screen where it's suggesting a dialogue.
Yes.
I think we should take the word compensation out and put in concession
Okay.
on the second line there.
We talking about buyers still, Steve?
Huh?
You're talking about on the buyer
And
side?
before we change it, we have had actually quite a bit of discussion about that because concession can be so confusing to a client who thinks about concessions in terms of, well, how's that gonna cover my closing costs? So compensation, we felt was the right word in there so that it's clear that it is for their buyer broker obligation.
Well, I just, we used to have compensation advertised in the MLS.
Yes.
So I'm thinking maybe we'll wanna try to get away from the word compensation and use the word concession in
Yeah.
its place. I mean, that won't be easy to learn, but, you know, Mr. Seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, a form of concessions in the past has been paying closing costs on behalf of the buyer. You know, they have great income, maybe not great savings, and they can afford your house. But if they put 3.5% down plus another 5,000 to 8,000 in closing costs, they have to wait another year or two before they can buy your house. If in concessions, we could perhaps even raise the selling price and pay concessions in the form of closing costs on behalf of the buyer, and concessions in the form of some commission that the buyer won't have to pull out of their pocket to pay their agent.
Yes,
We can put a deal together.
yes.
I'm rambling, but
Well, I think we all will, because it is just that difficult to describe. Are there any other, especially ALC, who picked up on a good phrase or a good way to concisely talk through this?
Kelly?
Well, I do like the term compensation.
Okay.
I think because it makes it clear to the buyer that they're covering my obligation to pay my listing agent or my buyer's agent. And also, you know, we discussed that, I think we're gonna start having conversations with sellers. Why is it beneficial to pay the buyer's agent? And one of those things is to motivate them to get to the closing table. Things come up, buyers get cold feet, scary things happen at inspection, utilities get crazy. Thousands of things can happen between now and closing day, and for us to get you your check on closing day, we want them in our corner guiding that buyer to the closing table. And by offering compensation, we are now a team with a shared goal. If we don't offer compensation, we no longer have a shared goal. That road gets bumpier and harder and closing might fall apart.
I think that also because it says cooperating on there, I think you could say compensation. Because you're because it's cooperating realtor compensation. If you didn't have that, I think it would be more confusing with you talking about the concessions that you're talking to. And adding to, you're talking about cooperating and bringing people to it, it says it right there.
Why don't you mention what your change was up here too?
Instead of saying I think it's safe to say, I think I would say my professional opinion is that you would want to appeal to the largest group.
Yeah,
Because that's what they're hiring you for, is your professional opinion.
that's a much better way to say it. Much, much better. Good.
So my
Okay,
professional
Jason's gonna
opinion
change that. We do have the Mega Agent Mastermind at 12:30. And I think this is such a good and valuable and spirited conversation that we might even just continue part of it on. But I do want to move on and just show you a few other changes. So Melanie, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a language change?
No,
by
I
chance?
just wondered if you could say reimbursement to reduce the buyer's obligation.
And in this phrase,
Well, instead of the compensation, saying we're offering this reimbursement will help reduce the buyer's obligation.
I like that. Reimbursement to reduce buyer's obligation. I have had these forms for a couple of weeks now, but I have not had a verbal lesson or instruction from the State Association of Realtors like I have in the past. So we've got the cart a little bit in front of the horse. We're just trying to be that proactive. I will be hearing this from the State Association on the 15th, and I'll update you if there are any things that I need to add. But going back to the presentation, I just want you to show the purchase agreement is also going to change. And we're adding this 4-line section in the bottom underneath where you write your name and Keller Williams Preferred and the other realtor and their real estate brokerage. Before I get in the weeds on how to describe that, I need to learn more from the Association of the Realtors. But I do want to tell you there are 2 new forms that you guys are going to have to get used to talking through. You're probably wondering for yourselves, what do I do with these listing agreements that I have where this language is now outdated? There is going to be this amendment to your listing contract that changes the language. And then there's also a couple important lines in here that you should take note of. Just like in our KWPR general disclosure, where we allow sellers to give us permission to divulge if there's the existence of multiple offers, we have a similar sentiment or spirit of the contract here, where the seller is going to authorize or not authorize us to disclose a seller's willingness to offer concessions, which is kind of interesting.
I rest my case. Line 8 says concessions. The name of the form has concessions. It doesn't have compensation.
Rest my case.
That's my case.
Because that's the only way we're allowed to say it on the MLS.
And that is
I
something
still
I
feel
haven't
like if I'm
mentioned.
talking
If you're
about getting
writing-
paid, I'm saying compensation.
I think the word compensation is woven in these documents as
It
well.
also says on line 10, the compensation to cooperating brokers shall be as follows.
You rest your case?
Just
Where is
pointing
it?
it out.
What line?
Line
Line
10,
10.
the compensation.
Okay.
What, okay, read line 8.
I don't have it.
concessions.
Well, okay, then I would say I suggest we use
Because it's
both
saying the concessions
words.
fund towards.
Use both words.
compensation.
But look at 8 and 9, they're both in there.
Because what it's saying is you can offer, seller now can offer concessions, that goes towards the buyer's closing costs, that can then reduce the buyer broker's compensation. They go hand in hand in this.
Yeah, I would get used to using both words. We've used compensation forever, but concession is less litigious.
You don't have to go to court.
There's also
I don't know what's
instances-
abbreviation for litigate.
Yeah, there's also instances with this form where you may have previously agreed to a 2% compensation to cooperating brokers, and then in the end, they increase it to 3%. So you can use this as an amendment to your listing contract then as well. There is one other new form. Don't worry, don't fret, you don't have to describe this to any of your buyers or sellers. This is just something that you and the other realtor are going to have as a mutual agreement. You actually put the real estate company's name and my name on there. It doesn't even have your name, so we put both real estate brokers on there.
So no one signs that?
No, no one signs it. We'll just have to update our auditing process so that we're collecting it from you now, but it doesn't get signed by anyone. Yes?
Well, and as a reminder, oftentimes I don't charge commissions on closing costs to my seller. And in order to do that, there's a similar form
Yes?
where both brokers need to agree, if I could get the buyer's agent to agree to not collect commissions on closing costs, then both brokers have to sign it.
Yes,
And that's what you've got right there.
you're right. You're exactly right. All right, well, that was really valuable discussion. I'll be in here for the Mega Agent Mastermind. I hope you do come back and then we can continue talking about it. But we'll have some final scripts, 12:30. We'll have some final dialogues to deliver to you the last week of the month. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
I
Melissa.
appreciate your contribution. You're gonna do great.
The 12 of us are.
Show it.
And I do think, as we've been through this, it's super important that we continue to understand that this is a dialogue. It's not a final answer, that we're gonna get there, and that's gonna be natural. And what you say a year from now will not be what you're saying next week. It's going to change, and that's okay. This is all about managing change. We're gonna jump over with health, we had one, go quick.
I
You
have
have
a
one? Go ahead, tell us the
11-acre
story.
parcel in between Northfield and Fairville. It has an older 1970s split entry on it, but it's 11 acres with a shed. Really close location to Northfield, just south of it, in between Northfield and Fairville, south of Dundas actually. 450,000.
Say that, okay, say it one more
The
time.
shed is
Everything?
450,000.
So it's 11 acres?
11 acres,
Shed?
older split entry house
Split
with a gigantic shed, like a
Okay.
pole barn with a kind of lean-to with doors on it attached.
Okay.
450,
Where is?
just south of Northfield and Dundas, before you get to Fairville.
Anybody?
I have a cutie that, I think I mentioned it last time, but a little, 1.5 story, cute storybook house in South Minneapolis, 425.
Ms. Zicko?
Photos are Monday, should be active Thursday, next Thursday.
Yes, we're gonna have to talk, we'll talk a little bit more about the health, because there's some new stuff in Command that allows you to see things, so we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get it finalized, but Command is moving forward in a way that will allow you better access to this, which is super. Brian Drake, Brian graciously agreed that what he wants to cover might be better if he had more time to cover it than the 2 minutes. We would
And more
give him.
people.
So what he's gonna talk about is this stuff, which we know first generation home buyers, super important. And then some flyers go along with it. Toddy wants to remind you that several events are coming up. Mega Agent Mastermind today at 12:30. We will be closed on Thursday and Friday of this week. Growth Workshop next week on July 9th. We'll be talking about database management. It's a great time mid-year to really think about that and how I can get through, working through that. On the 10th, I don't know who Patrick Showers is, but he's gonna help you with lead gen boot camp, and that sounds exciting. You're gonna be clean and do some lead gen.
Stop it.
Wow. On the other side, we've got all these other great things going on as well. We know Mega Agent Mastermind is first week. Solo Agent Alliance, so if you're a solo agent where we share best practices, that is on, looks like Thursdays, July 18th, August 15th, and September 12th coming up. Google My Business, Shannon Steer will be here, but not all of the same days that are the Solo Agent Alliance. She won't be here, she'll be on Zoom, but I feel like this might not be accurate, so don't pretend those days are right. On the team meeting on July 24th, we're gonna have a barbecue. If you've been here the past few years, we do that outside. We do the team meeting, we go outside and have a big fun and do some barbecue, which is great. 7th inning stretch coming up on July 31st. There is no team meeting that day, but the entire day is gonna be a workshop on helping you plan out the second half of your year in response to what you've done in the first half and where you wanted to go. Misha wants to say where it's go.
It's baseball themed and there's food. I'm done.
It's baseball theme and there's food. There's a luau. I like it's a luau. It's super exciting. Will be on August 23rd. That will also be outside, but it'll be an agent thing, and we'll be giving away some more festive awards.
Like best hair, we know who's
Like-
getting that.
Well, exactly. Or we'll probably give away best script, and we think that Kelly has already locked that one up. So, but those awards are gonna be ones that you guys vote on. So we're really excited about that, seeing your opinions and how we can make that better. The Client Carnival is coming up. More stuff is coming about the Client Carnival, which will be on August 29th. As you may recall, that is an outside event where you will invite your clients to, if you opt in to participate. So electronic recycling, fun stuff, bouncy houses, all kinds of crazy things going on. All right, and the Sparbecue. You know you were looking for it. You were very excited about it. The Sparbecue coming up on July 23rd. There will be food, fun, and networking. It is not baseball themed, Misha. It's just a Sparbecue. So,
And where is that?
At Spar.
At the Spar. But you can show up and just say, I'm a realtor, give me a hamburger. And that's a pretty good deal.
Let's try that.
I'm all in.
What day is that?
And today we have Mega Agent Mastermind, 12:30. So for those of you who are online, thank you for joining us, talking about scripts. Again, this conversation will continue throughout the month. We encourage you in whatever way you can to participate in team meetings and the opportunities we'll have where we'll be traveling throughout the state to meet with you, because we want you to be fully educated and fully prepared on this change, even though we've been doing it for 30 years.
That should be a t-shirt. We've been doing it for 30 years.
We were doing it before it was cool.
We were doing it before it was cool. So thanks for coming
Or legally
today.
mandated.
Go find something to eat.
Oh, the cereal bars are real.
Cereal bars are really good. Super,
Melissa, I had Frosted Flakes yesterday.
super fun stuff out there. So thanks again. Appreciate everybody coming, and we will see you next time here on The Feud.
Woo! Ray Dawson! Ray Dawson, Steve Harvey, all right.
Is that what you said?
Why would you have?
No, it's wheat.
What I
And
said.
it was wheat.
Okay.
No, Frosted Flakes are better. And I chose it after, I was like, you know, I'm gonna cooperative, and I was trying to go with the healthy option.
I think
Good question.
my third, you know.
It's so nice of you to come in.
I'm
I think so.
Yeah.
And that's not actually even what I was gonna ask you about, but